So we're going over the homework from chapter 2, and we're starting from the first problem on page 2-32, asking about included or excluded from gross income. And the first thing I'd like to say is we know that basically tax law says what about inclusions or exclusions?
Everything's included unless specifically excluded.
Exactamente. Everything is included, thank you, unless it's specifically excluded. And you've got a list, I can't remember what page it's on, but figure 2 dash something, right at the beginning. And that's got pretty much the exhaustive list of what's not included. Otherwise, everything is inclusive. So really when you go through that list, the only thing here that's excluded, pardon me, is A, welfare payments, E, the $300 set of golf clubs, because it was an employee and it was an award for a length of service. What if it was an employee, and this is not a set of golf clubs, this would be a driver. It would cost $300, right? But what if an employee got it because she was she had high sales for the prior quarter? Then it would be taxable, wouldn't it? Because that would be compensation. The only time it's excludable is for length of service or safety, up to $400, or up to what if you have a qualified plan? 1,600. Well done. Okay. What else is excluded? H, accident insurance proceeds. Okay. Accident insurance proceeds, a lot of times on your life insurance, you'll have this rider, not on your life insurance, pardon me, your health insurance. You'll have a rider that if you've got, if you lose a finger or a hand or a foot, it's like a dismemberment clause, kind of gross, but that's non-taxable. Those proceeds are non-taxable. I, inheritances excluded. J, gifts excluded, and that's about it. I'm going to change the color. Okay, so that's that. Number 2, John installed a new roof on his friend's house in return for a used truck worth $6,000. How much income must he report? $6,000. Barter income's fully includable. Number 3, Larry's a tax accountant, Sheila's a hairdresser. Basically, same. They want to know if they've got to each declare income, and they do. I can't even venture a guess on how much barter income is actually reported. I would bet it is negligible. Probably less than that. I'm sure a lot of people don't know. Yeah.
I didn't know until you just
There's absolutely no way to trace it. And so that's what makes it so hard. Your average bear is not going to voluntarily declare income that there's no way to trace. Although he or she is breaking the law. Because technically, yeah, you have to. Less than 1% of people are audited in this country. And most of those have, they're either high net worth or they've got red flag sorts of things going on, like a lot of passive losses or their investment vehicles like REITs and LLCs and things that are a little bit more complicated. So for probably most of us sitting here in the room, the odds of actually being audited are so negligible that it's honestly almost laughable. It's very hard to get a compliant citizenry when you don't have any really way to, follow up and penalize. Okay, number 6. If a taxpayer holding Series EE bonds does not make an election with respect to the taxation of the bonds, how is it the interest that accrues each year on the bonds taxed? So first off, what are Series EE bonds?
They're ones that it's not that you take out the whole sum, but it's the ones that you take out payments. Is that right? Or do I have it backwards?
You buy them at a discount. So I've got a $1,000 bond. I buy it for $826 and I hold on to it for 10 years or 20 years and then I get $1,000 out of it. So that difference, obviously, that $174 is interest. Okay. If I don't, what are they saying? If I don't make the election with respect to how to pay tax on it, what do I have to do?
Doesn't it just when it matures?
It's in the year of maturity. If I don't make an election, I don't pay anything for 10 or 20 years. I think they're 20-year notes or bonds. Then in that year, I've got $174 of taxable interest. The one exception to that is if you use those double E bonds to pay for higher education. So a lot of people will fund, like grandparents might help fund their grandchildren's, like say I had a grandbaby born this year, I might buy some double E bonds for him or her and let them, say I buy 10 grand of them or 20 grand of them at a discount, let them mature, and then if they use them when they mature for education, then that interest is never taxable.
What is a double E bond? What are some examples of double E bonds?
That's just what they're called. They're issued by the federal government.
Okay.
So when we talk about like our deficit, much of that is funded by bonds, by debt.
Oh, okay.
And much of our debt is owned by Middle East countries and China. So when people talk about, the deficit, the problem is that when you need to keep paying for things, you keep issuing debt. Well, the analogy to us is like, I can't pay my utility bill, so I put it on my credit card. So when you can't meet your short-term expenses, unless you're issuing long-term debt, in any of our lives, that would be pretty much crisis mode. And that's going to come to a head, no doubt about it. Normally, the theory is you issue long-term debt for long-term projects. Like, I take out a mortgage to buy my house. That makes sense. Right? Doesn't make sense to issue a bond to pay my utility bill. And that's what we're doing right now in America, essentially.
And it's getting harder to buy those bonds because now it's all online and you have to go through. You can't just go to your bank like you used to.
No, when I was a little girl, my dad had, this is kind of quaint, my parents had me very late in life, so they were born in 1915 and 1920. So they were Depression-era kids. My dad was a World War II vet. And we had a savings box in their closet. And there were U.S. war bonds in it, and you would clip the coupons and mail it in every 6 months, and then you would get a check for the interest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's just quaint,
My grandma, she just passed away. She was 101, and she was
Wow.
still living off of those.
She was. Isn't that's such a treasure, I think. Okay, number 9. Arlen is required by his divorce agreement to pay alimony of $2,000 a month, child support of $2,000 a month. What is the tax treatment of those two payments for Arlen, and what is the tax treatment of those two payments for Jane? So what does Arlen get to do with the $24,000 in child support? He doesn't get to do anything with that. The child support's non-deductible, right?
The alimony is deductible.
The alimony is deductible. Now, for Arlen, and taxable to Jane, and on Arlen's tax return, he's got to write her social. And that's going to be double, that's going to be matched, cross-checked is the word I'm looking for, to make sure that she declares it as income.
So how come, like in the book, it says that, so many people show that they pay alimony, but there's not people reporting it back if they double check it?
Okay, I don't know. What did the book say about that?
Well, it was saying.
You're going to get...
You were talking about.
If I pay you alimony and I put on my tax return that I'm deducting $24,000 in alimony, and it cross-checks and you haven't reported it, your tax return is going to get kicked back to you. Well, actually, honestly, both of our returns are going to get kicked back until it's resolved. Am I taking a deduction that I'm not, that is not authenticated, or are you choosing not to report the income? It's the same thing if, you and I both put it the same, kid's social security number on our tax return. They're just going to kick it back to both of us. And that sucks for clients if they've got, like, I've got clients that have ex-husbands or ex-wives that are, either trying to do their own tax returns and don't have a clue, or they've told their CPA, like, I've got a right to take this dependent on my return. Your refund's just held up until it's resolved. Yeah, awkward, super unfortunate, particularly in the situation where you've had both the clients and then they split up. then they both want to use you. I have learned that that is not a sustainable situation.
You just let them both go.
No, I usually choose a woman. Horrible. If they don't have a kid, it's not an issue.
Yeah, then you want them, but if
It's not an issue because then they just go on their way and, once the house is sold, blah, blah, blah. But the kids and who's claiming the dependency and what happens when they get to higher ed and who gets the, the opportunity credits, that gets really muddled and it's just awkward. And I'm not into it.
I'm not a counselor.
No, I don't need to, any of that makes me just super uncomfy. Okay, 9, that was 9. 11, how much of each of the following is taxable? Shalene receives a $50,000 gift bag from the Oscars during 2015. What happens? Taxable. And that actually happens. Like movie stars need $50,000 gift bags, but at any rate, yeah, that's taxable. So it's not a free gift bag because they're probably in the upper tax bracket, which is how much for federal income tax? 39.6. And if you live in California, the highest state income tax bracket is 9%. So you're paying 25 grand in tax for your $50,000 gift bag.
I don't want it, you can keep it.
So you better love what's in it, right?
I really wanted that perfume.
Yeah. Good grief. John received a gold watch worth $750 for 25 years of service, and it's not a qualified reward. How much is taxable?
400.
I think $350, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, 350. 400.
Right, so the 400's excludable and the 350's taxable. C, Carrie wins $1 million in her state lottery. First off, what do you advise her? Do you tell her to take it in a lump sum or you tell her to take it in an annuity? Why?
Because if she dies tomorrow, then she's not gonna get it, right? No, that would be the opposite.
Yeah, that would be the opposite. I don't know. That's a really good question, Jess. I don't know if you choose to annuitize a lottery payout, do your beneficiaries get that if you die, or is it just gone? Super good question.
In annuities, the taxes are gonna be a little bit more
What?
affordable, right?
Are going to be more what?
Affordable. Like,
Okay,
she'd be able to
why?
pay 'em versus
Why?
She'd have to pay it all at one time.
Well, if you get $1 million in income, what bracket are you going to be in?
The high bracket.
Yeah, obviously the 39.6, I think it changes somewhere in the 400,000s, doesn't it, TI? If you annuitize $1 million over 20 years, that's going to be something less than $50,000 a year. No. Yeah, 50,000 times 20, sure. So that's going to, that might not even make a ding in your, in your tax bracket. I mean, may or may not, depending upon where you're at. The other thing is, and I don't know the exact number anymore, this is a number of years ago, but 70-some odd percent of people that win the lottery are broke within 36 months. If they take a lump sum payout. And it doesn't matter if they win $1 million or $100 million.
I could see though, because you think, I've got all this money.
Well, and you just have, who amongst us would have the savvy to deal with a $50 million check? I mean, I like to think like we'd be really responsible. We'd set up a foundation. We'd be philanthropic. We wouldn't change the house we live in or the cars we drive. But even people that think they know what they think they would do with it, and most people have never, really don't have a clue what they would do with it. It's like, I buy a house and I buy my kids a house and I buy a car and then you still have, $49.2 million left.
Well, $1 million wouldn't last very long.
No, and $1 million, that sounds kind of bourgeois, but that really isn't that much money anymore.
No.
As far as like
Cost of living.
living, quitting your job, you're not going to quit your job on $1 million. If you're smart, you'll invest it. And that's also the problem when you look particularly like at a lot of these young athletes that sign these 40 and 50 and $60 million contracts and then get injured and they don't get, re-upped. And it's like, what the hell happened to all that money? And it's like the sensibility of like cars and boats and airplanes aren't investments. They don't appreciate. They depreciate. So at any rate, I guess you'd have to buy a lottery ticket to actually worry about winning it, which I don't. So And then the last one, Deborah's a professor, received 50 grand as an award for scientific research. What about that? That's taxable if it comes to her. If it goes to the university, obviously, it's not taxable to her. But if it comes to her, that's basically compensation. 12, Malchia won a $4,000 humanitarian award, all taxable. Rob won a new automobile with a sticker price of $15,700 and a market value of $14,500 for being the best tennis player, fair market value. Okay, what would it be trading for now? I don't even know. Sticker price is just, what is sticker price?
What they'd like
I mean,
to
you
do.
never pay sticker price, do you? No. So it's the fair market value of whatever you win. And $3,500 room and board scholarship is taxable. What if you'd want a tuition scholarship? Non-taxable. 12, 13. So this is the quote-unquote simplified worksheet for an annuity. She's 66. She's getting $1,000 a month, and she got 8 payments in the first year. And her hubby, who has evidently passed, had contributed $39,900. So what you're trying to get to is how much is taxable in this year. She got $8,000, right? 9 payments times $1,000 each. So she got $8,000 out of the $39,900. They're projecting. They give you this table, and you pick out how old you are, right? Based on mortality tables, they give you a factor, and you complete this, and so about $6,480 of her proceeds are going to be taxable this year. What form does the annuity payouts come on again? What do you get in the mail?
1099 miscellaneous.
R for retirement. 1099-R. That reports your IRA distributions, your pension payments, your annuities, 401k, 403b, anything like that. Simple SEPs, all those distributions come on a 1099-R. And almost all, 99.9% of the time, they will have figured the taxable amount and put it in the little box that says taxable amount. So you're like, cool. 15. Greg died on July 1st, 2015, and left Leah, his wife, a $50,000 life insurance policy, which she elects to receive at $5,000 per year, plus interest for 10 years. In the current year, she gets $6,300. How much is includable? Yep, just the interest. $1,300. And lastly, number 18, in June of 2015, Kevin inherits stock worth $125. During the year, he collects $7,500 in dividends. How much of these amounts, if any, should Kevin include in his gross income? Just the $7,500. Okay, let's go on to the software. I know some of you are struggling with this. The first thing I will tell you is that the best thing you can do, and I know you've been doing this, Kate, but is to just play with putting numbers in different places and then toggling back and forth between the tax return to see if it works. Okay, and remind me that I've got to go around and grade some of your tax returns still from chapter 1. Okay. Okay, so I've got my guy, and I go to my, to enter my interest. No, I don't want to take a tour. Import more. No, I said I didn't want to do that. Okay, now what they're asking, did you guys see that little screen that came up? This is actually kind of important. And I've got a couple clients like this that do a lot of like day trading. So they might have 20,000 entries in interest. They download it from their software that they use to trade, and they will actually give me a digital recording on it. And it's really not that hard. It sounds kind of complicated, but I attach that digital record to their tax return. I mean, I'm not going to input 20,000 entries. For one thing, I'm just not going to do it. For a second, their tax return would be $4,000. So if you're a day trader or somebody that has a lot of transactions, you need to use a piece of software, and you need to know how to extract that data and get it to your CPA or your accountant so that they can attach it.
Wow.
And I've got 2 clients like that. Okay, so what's going on with Larry that's complicated? He's got a U.S. government-backed bond, right? Is everyone with me on case 4?
The Tennessee State University.
No, the Fannie Mae.
Oh,
So what happens with U.S. government-backed bonds? Do you want it on the federal return? Is it taxable for feds?
yes.
Yes. Is it taxable for state? No. So if it shows up on the feds, you've got to make sure on the state, stick with me here, you've got to make sure on the state that you've got it in the what? Which column on your recap? On the reductions. And you've got to check that on your Montana state tax return.
I have a question about reduction
Mhm.
conditions.
Yeah.
So, say you have like a $40 refund coming in from the state.
Yeah.
Does the reduction, say you have a reduction of $35.
Okay.
Does that bump up your refund to 75, or does it drop it down to 5?
No, it just drops your TI.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't apply to the taxer, it just applies to the TI.
Okay,
And you'll see that when you review your tax return.
okay.
Okay, the only other weird, so how did we input that? Let's see if we can get that to work. So I want to see that $300 on his federal return, but not his state, right? So let's see. So I'm going to go in here. Fannie Mae. I think that's all I need to input. It's a U.S. savings bond, so it's got to go in box 3. And that's pretty clearly labeled. And you always have to enter, your state. So if I did this correctly, I should be able to go to my 1040 and see what? I want to see $300 of interest, don't I?
On line 8A.
Yep, and there it is. Okay, that's cool. Now I'm going to hope to go over to state and see that $300 pulled out. So I'm going to go over to my ST. And I'm going to go to my Form 2. And I'm going to go down. There's my $300. Okay, that's great. I go all the way down to line 38A, and of course that's my federal AGI, and here it is in my reductions. Now follow me through here because I want to go and look at the form. The schedule, I don't even know what it's called. What is it? Schedule 2 is my reductions schedule. Schedule 1 is my additions schedule. So how am I going to go look at Schedule 2? I can either pick it up over here, or I can just go click on the field, right? And then I get the magnifying glass. So I go here, and I go here, and I scroll up, and good as gold, there it is, exempt interest and mutual fund dividends from federal bonds, notes, and obligations. So really, my only advice to you is you've got to go just kind of play with it, and then check it. But you got to know what you're expecting to find. Okay. I'm going to turn off the tape, and then if you need individual help, just let me know. We are going to spend the rest of today